Welcome to Cascade Conversations. Join the team at Cascade Partners and their network of trusted advisors as they work to demystify details, terminology, and strategies in the world of acquisitions, divestitures, and financings.
Thanks for joining us for another Cascade Conversation. Today, we're sitting with one of our own, Ron Miller, who helps lead our restructuring practice here at Cascade Partners. Ron, thanks for joining us and having a little bit of a conversation today about the restructuring practice. You know, it's not always clear when folks need to call in a restructuring specialist, and it can be very nerve-wracking. When's that right time for someone to start thinking about that might be the help they need?
You're right. It's very subtle. It's often when good companies begin to have reduced margins, inventories begin to grow, there are exits of executives. Those are signs that they're beginning to have stress in their operations.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs are saying, hey, I have that stress all the time, but I don't need a restructuring specialist. You know, those aren't always problems that are dire, but you're saying those are really signs. And that's earlier than I think people think about bringing in, a restructuring specialist.
Right. Well, we do performance improvement, helping companies that are good really be great companies, right? And we have a different perspective. We have a lot of experience with a lot of good high performance companies, and we are able to share that experience with entrepreneurs, owners, leaders of businesses to improve their performance.
And unlike others, right, our team really has on the shop floor leadership, right, experience. I mean, having been, yourself an entrepreneur and executive, but that's a little different about our team, isn't it?
Very different. We've been entrepreneurs for decades. We've sat in the seat that our clients have sat in and experienced the distress or stress that they are experiencing at the time. And we have seen a number of different solutions to some of the issues they're dealing with. So our experience brings a lot to them.
Yeah, and because oftentimes, right, why can't just an executive or an entrepreneur just do this on their own? Why do they need to call help? I mean, everybody has good times and bad times.
Right. Well, they tend to be very myopic, very focused internally on their business and lose sight of what, advances, new technologies, new processes, new methods are out there that other people are developing. And that's where we see a lot of good performance, and we bring those experiences to our clients.
Yeah, so really, I mean, we've seen it across all our practices, right? We very purposely try to take expertise and insights from multiple companies that we're working with to be able to bring to bear on any individual dynamic or particular solution.
Right. Yes, it goes across all companies and industries and so on. Yes.
And so, in other cases, what do we really bring into the table? What's the Cascade team really bringing to the table that entrepreneur or the private equity partner that doesn't have, that's going to help them kind of through these challenges?
Well, it's deep experience throughout the entire organization from the top to the bottom. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned before, much of our team is experienced on the shop floor and in middle management. And so many companies and shareholders, investors look at kind of the top of the organization and don't understand that much of if there are performance issues, they come from up from the bottom in the middle of the company, and that leadership is an issue, but and important, but there are issues within throughout the company that often challenge performance.
And you've often had to be that objective third-party voice to help shareholders make a transition in part of the leadership team, or can you talk a little bit about what you have had to do there and how that's impacted the companies that we've worked with?
Well, I mean, we've assessed, evaluated the entire organization, looked at are the right people in the right seats, and have they developed processes that are efficient and help them be competitive in the market. And so we go deep and we go thorough. And again, with our breadth of experience, we're able to substantially improve profitability if they haven't gone through the exercise before.
Yeah, and I know that you said in many cases, right, you're able to use the benchmark that you've seen from other organizations to say whether, well, the company's been maybe doing better than they thought when they compare to the competitors in the marketplace.
Yeah, we see that quite frequently, where we will analyze the financials and determine that margins are not consistent with their competition with it, and they're surprised. They're surprised that their competitors or others in their space are achieving greater margins than they are. So we bring a lot of benchmarking experience to them and help them set new goals of performance.
Well, and I know that often a key mantra for our restructuring team is really that hands-on engagement, that you're not just coming up and helping develop a plan and saying, good luck, go implement it. You really get your hands dirty.
Right. We work alongside of our client. We say, I do, we do, they do. And so we begin with showing them, working alongside the different teams that need help. And as they develop that experience and make those changes, we then phase out. So we leave when they have been successful in the transition and hitting their goals that we've established collectively.
So not just a plan, right? Really hands-on, helping them do
give
that
it to
work.
them. Yeah. They are where they are because they have had challenges in executing. We are there to help them execute a new plan.
And sometimes, restructuring, and we're getting called when it's a crisis, right? And it's beyond the, hey, we're starting to see the trend, and the wheels are really coming off the bus, if you will. Right. And how does our role change there? Or, how do people benefit from that?
Well, it's the sooner the better. Obviously, often we are introduced to a client that if we'd only been introduced 6 months earlier, we would have had more options, and it would have been less of a challenge to help them fix their whatever issues that they may have. But there are, even if it's a little late, there are a number of solutions that we've been successful in helping our clients through.
So how do the banks, because obviously one of the big drivers in this is lenders, right? Because when companies start having trouble, the lenders are the ones that are getting tense and saying, hey, you got to develop a solution. So how does the bank benefit from having someone like us involved in the company?
Yeah, the first thing we do is we help educate our client that their interests and the bank interests are aligned more than they feel they are. Are often unhappy with their bank if their bank's introduced an advisor or suggested an advisor, so they think the bank is being unfair. The bank's actually trying to help them, and we're there to help them. And as I said, their interests are aligned, and as they understand that, then they begin to work more cooperatively with the bank. And working cooperatively together is going to achieve much better results than in working competitively, right?
Yeah, and for the bank, so that could mean maybe some accommodations and some working with the client, right? As part of that.
Right. Well, our job is to really inform the bank of what's really going on. So we develop a lot of data, and we communicate with the bank. And again, because their interests are in making sure that their customer is successful and able to pay them back, right? So the information, getting to understand exactly what's going on within the company is critical.
And so get it how the bank can benefit. So how does shareholders and executives benefit from calling a third party like us in to really help them when it gets this dire?
And we introduce change, right? Which is often a challenge for business owners or business leaders, but they benefit because the company stops doing the same old thing and having the same results, right? So we help them change. We help them understand. Typically, the leadership learns a lot about their business with a third party coming in and giving them a different view, right? And a different skill set.
And oftentimes, you've been able to very successfully transition out one bank and actually bring in a new partner that can help them kind of continue their growth, maybe different dynamics, but right. I mean, isn't that ultimately one of the things we've been very successful helping our clients do?
Yeah, it's one of the options, and it's really what is the best outcome for the client and the other stakeholders. Sometimes it's find a new lender. Sometimes it's find some additional capital invested. Sometimes it's retain. The bank retains the customer because things have changed and the performance has improved and the relationship has improved. So I think that's a win, certainly for the bank if it can be restored to a good credit, and it's a win for the bank if they no longer want the credit for us to find another bank.
Our team has worked across a lot of unique cases, right? I mean, every one of them is unique in the circumstances and the things that led up to the challenges that they're facing. But what are a couple of the most common mistakes that you see organizations do when they get into these difficult situations that makes their lives more challenging? If you can limit it to two.
Limited to pushback on their lenders, not understand, deny that they have issues and performance issues, and they're not meeting the expectations of their lender, and refusing to change, refusing to take a hard look at what how they've been performing, not being realistic about really where they are.
And the dynamics and what's the consequences? I mean, what do you see the consequences when they stop communicating or they're challenging their bank when the bank's got when the bank has concerns or is raising these red flags?
The consequences can be losing their business. They need to be open to change and taking on new ideas, and again appreciating the risk that the other stakeholders are in.
And you said earlier that oftentimes, one of the challenges that people have is they wait too long. And you and I have seen in many cases where attorneys probably have actually the greatest visibility that challenges are brewing. And how have you worked with attorneys when they see these dynamics beginning to develop with their clients, maybe even before the banks have kind of raised the red flag specifically.
Right. Well, it's trying to prevent disputes and disagreements. Obviously, trying to identify what the issues are and then disclose them, bring them out to the other stakeholders. Like we've often been the first to, let the bank know that there are issues before they've recognized that. So it's a variety of different situations which we help the client.
Yeah, and I think I've seen where, in some cases you just described where we're talking to the bank on behalf of the client for the first time and really been able to use that as a tool to help the client be able to frame that, position that, and talk about it in the language that the bank likes to hear and is used to hearing, with a plan of, hey, here's the dynamic and here's the solution, rather than, oh my gosh, the building is on fire and we don't know where the fire extinguisher is.
Exactly. Determine what the issues are, what the solution is, and come to them with all of it. Open up share it with them and give them solutions so that we can work positively towards, a good outcome.
Well, Ron, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat a little bit more about our restructuring practice and hopefully gave folks an opportunity to understand the scale and scope of what we're able to provide. If you want to learn more, please reach out to any of us on the Cascade team. We'd be happy to share how we might be able to help your organization.